Is it working? Gaming is for friends.
I thought this music was so epic.
We all like talking about gaming. The only thing that I disliked about the old game. There are so many different conversations started by gaming.
Oh, I forgot. I have you.
This could be anything. Okay, walk in that green goo. Oh, nope. That's a no. Anything Gaming Podcast. Hi, welcome to Anything Gaming, episode 25. We are back after a couple of weeks not doing stuff. And how are you, Woody? We haven't spoke for a while. You must.
I know, yeah, man. Things are different. Things are different here in New England. The warmer weather is coming in, which is nice. It's been very gorgeous out lately. Don't need a jacket or a hoodie or anything like that. As far as the games have been going, I've been playing a lot more Fallout. I've just finished L.A. Noire. That's a good one.
I love that game. I love that game. That's the one game that I would rather them make more of them than Grand Theft Autos. I know someone
heard that they never tried a game like that again, where you got to find the clues, you got to ask the questions.
There was a game like that I played, the Judgment game, but it was made by Sega, and then they actually added weird Mortal Kombat type fighting in amongst it. You got
to do something between all that. Even in L.A. Noire, there's parts where you're just shooting at dudes.
Yeah, but this one, Judgment doesn't have shooting. It's only fighting. It's more very Japanesey, where you're running around, you get into fist fights and throw, kick people and stuff like that. But then there's a lot of investigating to do. So that if you liked L.A. Noire, then definitely try that one out. There's Judgment 1 and 2. So,
oh, really? Oh, man. I may have been sleeping on this. I got to check that out.
Yeah. Made by Sega, too. So it's a big publishing house.
Speaking of which, I actually was talking to my nephew, and he's getting older. He's 16. And I always like to know, what he's playing. And right now, he's just, into the Yakuza franchise right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he loves it. So, and I heard of this. I've heard of the game that you're talking about, but I heard they're kind of related in some way.
Which game is that? Sorry,
Yakuza and Lost Judgment.
Oh yeah, I've never played that. So I think that's more the action version of this, and the Judgment one is more the detective version.
Nice.
I think I could be way wrong on this, but that's the vibe I'm getting from the playthroughs and stuff that I've watched a little bit of.
Nice, cool. And how about yourself? Have you gone into anything? I mean, how's the mood? I mean, you just came back from
Sydney. I was in Sydney, so
yeah, I forget the name of the con, but how'd that go? I know that was a while ago, but any fallout from that still?
Oh, well, that was really interesting because it was the first time I'd ever done a gaming panel at one of these exhibitions where I got up in front of everyone and we all spoke about games, and it's kind of a little bit like this show, but it was a bit more indie based. But
see the audience.
Yeah. But yeah, we were just talking about anything that came to mind, but yeah, a bit more indie focused. But I've never done that before, and it was a pretty good, interesting way to do things. So I posted that on my other channel, so it's the worst recording known to man, but it's still there. I can still prove that I did it, so that's the main thing.
Oh, yeah. Sure, that's great. Any video games you've been playing lately?
Video games, no, I don't think I have had a chance to play. There's a few that I've been looking at that I just haven't had the chance to kind of get involved with, but nothing as much. I've just been so busy driving.
Me too. There's a bunch of games I want to buy right now and play that I don't got, but I'm holding off. Like Princess Peach Showtime. We've talked about that. I would love to get that, but not yet.
I haven't seen any feedback on that, so I'm like, there's probably videos everywhere on the internet, but no one's really come out and said it's the best game. I need to go and buy it. So. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at the same time, I haven't heard anyone that says, oh my God, this game sucks.
Yeah. It's kind
I haven't heard that either. So.
It's just like it's like got released and it went super quiet. Like no one even talked about it again.
Yeah.
So, This week we are going to talk about 3D platformers and go through our favorites because there's a few there that we really didn't touch on this subject ever. We were always on FPSs and things like that. So it's nice to get into the 3D platformers. I love a lot of them. Which are where do you want to start with this? Do you want to?
Well, I think we should start with first. I want to define 3D platformer. To me, is any game where you're in the third person, you're in a movable space, but there is an emphasis on traversing platform to platform, usually by jumping, but there's other ways to do that. And some games get really loose with that. At some parts, you can consider Grand Theft Auto 5 to be a 3D platformer game.
Oh, you're
depending on what you're doing in the mission.
You're stretching.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is a stretch. I understand. But when I say 3D platformer, I mean like actual fluid movement between platforms. So what you would think of that. Now, there are some games that I would consider to be in that valley too that you might not think. The old Tomb Raider games, but not so much the newer ones, but the older ones, because there was jumping from platform to platform.
But I don't ever associate that with an action game. But now that you speak of it, yes, I could see that.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it does have the action to it, and there are stretches in the original Tomb Raider where you'll be in a room where there's no jumping. You're just like pillar to pillar, trying not to get shot at by the dudes in black. I'm thinking of that level in Tomb Raider 2, the monastery place.
Yeah.
That was my go-to for that.
Even I was just thinking of her manor, but in the manor, you're still doing a bit of jumping, grabbing onto the chandelier, going for a bit of a swing, all those kind of things.
Especially a lot of those, like, because when people were just first breaking out into the 3D space, when the shift from 2D to 3D came up, the first thing that they had to work out before anything else was the actual movement around, and that was done with jumping or climbing up things just around. So if you look at a lot of those original 3D platforming games like Bubsy 3D, quite rough. They really didn't know what they were doing yet.
So what is the first 3D platformer?
To me, the first 3D platformer that I ever played that I was like, all right, at the very least would be Super Mario 64.
Well, apparently it was a French game. I just Googled
it. I'm sure there were 3D platformers on the PC going back like even to the 80s, depending on like the company.
No, about the 90s they came out. They weren't really there till the 90s. Apparently, I just on the internet-y here, that's what it's told me. But for me, I think
early examples. Blasto is I think that predates Mario 64. Someone wants to correct me on that.
When was Mario 64
early PS1 game?
What year is Mario 64?
Mario 64 is 96.
Yeah, so there's 1990s, the kind of first. So there's probably a couple there, but Mario 64 probably gone, hey, let's popularize this. But yeah, Mario to me is really probably, again, like it really revolutionized and brought the 2D platformer around, and it probably did that for most people with the 3D platformer. Mario is probably a really good starting point with these kind of games.
It's easy now to go back to that game and be like, oh, the camera sucks. But you got to remember, back then, there was really nothing like that. A movable camera that you could actually like see what you were doing and go from platform to platform. It nailed it very well. And it set a precedent, that's lasted.
Yeah. I never had the Nintendo. We've discussed this before. I never had that whole Nintendo thing. So for me, it was always the PlayStation that brought me those first games. Ape Escape, Spyro. There was a few there that I really kind of liked, and I only really got to play Mario 64 if I went to a friend's house or something like that. And I felt, I don't know, Mario 64 was really hard. It was it still is a really hard game compared to some of these other platformers that came along a little bit later and gone, hey, let's just make that a tiny bit easier so everyone else can have a turn at it.
No, it's tough. Yeah, I'll agree. I will say this, man. Super jealous. I only rented Ape Escape once, and I
Oh,
didn't get that deep into it. Is it that I've seen it at some retro stores, and I've thought about picking it up. How is it? Because I heard it was one of the first ones to really use the two sticks for the net.
yeah, that's true. It was kind of different, a very different game because of the net movement. You've got kind of swiping around with your net, and it was revolutionary for its time because you were doing that. It was almost like a 2D shooter. I mean, a two-stick shooter, but you're in a 3D format. But then they added the platforms and stuff into it as well to make it just as fun. And there was a heap of other gadgets too off memory that were really fun to use in Ape Escape. If you've got PlayStation, whatever the top one is, Premium, PlayStation Premium, it's free on there to play. Or yeah, it's part of your subscription. I shouldn't say free, but yeah,
Right, yeah.
yeah. So definitely worth going and checking out. If it's, I think number 2 was the better one because they fixed it up over the years after that. But
Yeah.
they had really fun stories too. It looks really goofy in that, but the kind of story was actually a bit bigger and better than you kind of expected it to be. Like it was a nice surprise. Oh, there's a bit of story here. But yeah, I definitely loved Ape Escape back in the day. And I think a big thing of the 3D platformers was that's when collectibles too were like tons better to find. They could hide them a lot more than they could in a 2D game. Like there was only so many places you could hide stuff in a 2D game, but in a 3D game, collectibles became so much more well hidden. You had to look around this corner and that corner, and you had to look everywhere for collectibles.
Yeah. I think one of the best 3D platformers, like that, at least on the collectible side, I always enjoyed Banjo-Kazooie's collectibles.
Oh, okay.
They were varied enough that they did different things. You had the main jigsaw pieces that you had to get, of course, but then there was like so much more than just that to get the notes. Those little different colored. They kind of look like little Alfs from the TV show Alf.
Yeah.
There's a name for them, I just don't know. Things like that always gave you the right impetus to look in the corners, like you said. Look where you wouldn't normally look.
Yeah.
You know, it gave you that reason to go there, because you don't know what might be there.
I know. And it gave you a reason to explore the world a lot more than you ever did in a 2D games. You'd start them, you go left to start, then that was the collectible, then you go on for the rest of the game. But yeah, I think around the same time of Banjo-Kazooie was the Spyro series came out. It was PlayStation's answer to Banjo-Kazooie, obviously. Did you play much Spyro?
I did. Back in the day, I played Spyro. I played Ripto's Rage, whichever one that is. I forget. I forget if that's number 2 or 3. I enjoyed Spyro a lot, but at the time, my 3D platformer heart was like firmly implanted in an N64. So I don't think I gave it the respect that it deserved back then. I subsequently played it since and enjoyed it, but it was mainly just a rental game. I never went to grab it. It was fun, but nothing, at the very least, nothing at the time I felt I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I don't think that's what made Spyro great. I think the thing that made it great was that it was all familiar, and there was not a whole lot of explaining to do in the game. The game was kind of designed around those principles that you kind of know all this stuff now. Let's just go and have some fun playing it instead of we have to teach you all this stuff. It was very like that, and you just wanted to save Spyro. You wanted to save the other dragons and keep the whole Spyro family together so they could form the Spyronauts or whatever it is that came after it. But I'm kind of sad Spyro died. But we did get a trilogy, which is something that you can't say about some of these games back in that time.
I always felt it was cool that, like, Especially, like, that's one thing I'll actually give for Sony when it comes to 3D platformers as opposed to Nintendo. Nintendo's got their 3D platformer franchises, whether it be Mario, whether it be Donkey Kong, even other, like, various games. I'm definitely not Zelda. That wouldn't be it. Star Fox Adventures had 3D platforming elements of that. But Sony seems to always reinvent itself with a new franchise. Like, so for PS1, you had Spyro, and you also had Ape Escape. Once PS2 came out, then you started seeing the Jack and Daxter game.
Yeah.
And you also saw Ratchet and Clank around that same time, too.
Oh, and you missed one there that it's kind of a bit of a weird 3D platformer. Crash Bandicoot. It went from PlayStation 1 through to PlayStation 2.
Yeah, okay. I'll give it that. Like, I wouldn't consider that to be a 3D platform on top of my head, but at the same time, it is a 3D space. You know, you do have to worry about that, and you do jump from it. So yes,
it's
Crash Bandicoot would be.
It's technically a 2D but 3D platformer. If you don't get the whole experience of exploring a world so much in Crash Bandicoot.
No, but like it does. It's got the rules. It follows the rules. So you're right. That's on me. I didn't completely forgot about that. But hey, I'm glad we did it because Crash Bandicoot, especially that original trilogy for PS1, like it got better and better as it went on.
Oh, 100%. And it was, I think it was almost bigger than Mario at the time.
They came out swinging.
Yeah.
I don't know how what commercials they had for it in Australia, but here in the States, I remember this one commercial. And like this commercial as 13-year-old, I love Nintendo, but I thought it was cool. And it's a dude in a Crash Bandicoot, furry costume more or less. And he's got a microphone, and he's outside the Nintendo of America headquarters in Seattle, Washington. And I forget exactly what he's saying, but he's pretty much saying, "You suck," like that. It's awesome, just like a ballsy commercial, just doing that. Like you laugh at the little snippets that Nintendo and Sega would take out on each other, getting back, and then all of a sudden this happens. I thought it was cool. I still do.
Well, looking back at it now, and funny you say that, Crash Bandicoot really does have a Sonic vibe to him. I kind of wonder if the death of Sonic kind of sparked the Crash Bandicoot. It was an easy transition to go from Sonic through to Crash Bandicoot, and maybe that was kind of like the catalyst. They made it look similar without painting him blue, gave him the same kind of attitude problems that Sonic had. It was very Sonic-esque of them to do that, and probably probably helped kill Sonic off a little bit in that period.
Yeah, I mean, because even by then, this is gonna sound stupid, but I think every decade does have phases, and there was the early '90s, and there was the late '90s.
Yeah,
Sonic was early '90s. Crash was late '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of '80s still in the early '90s. That radical tubular, kind of very neon, bright colors kind of thing going on. Whereas the late '90s were a little bit more grungier, a little bit more shirtless, but still wearing pants, things like that. And of course, just the general badassness of some of the games that were coming out in the late '90s just helped that image.
Yeah, I think the late '90s started to have that. That's when we did start seeing more the Grand Theft Autos and all those kind of games come into their own that really weren't so platformer or family friendly. Games started coming in, and maybe that's what killed off the Crash Bandicoot series. But it also, it had its run there, and yeah. I agree.
No, well, I think a thing that hurt Crash in the long run was, honestly, Naughty Dog. They've only ever developed the first 3 games. I don't even think they did the 4th one that came out recently, which was actually really good too. So I think once they left, the game kind of got an identity crisis, And sometimes a new developer can come in and like work wonders. The Grand Theft Auto series is a great example of that, but it really didn't with Crash, and yeah, it suffered. But by then, of course, you had other 3D platforming mascots ready to push the boundaries, and one big one that did was Conker with Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is just. It's a 3D platformer like no other.
I never heard of this Conker's Bad Fur Day. I thought we were going to go into Ratchet and Clank, but we'll come back to that.
Oh, we will, yes. But I feel like, because I forgot about Crash, so I just want to remember Conker, only because of the gratuitous drinking and pee and poop and boobs associated with this. Doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense with a 3D platformer, because it's just a 3D platformer. But it's just so on the chin. I'd be remiss not to give Conker a nod, and of course the writing in the game and the story. It's got one of the most deceptively awesome video game endings you'll ever play in a video game, and it's just this crude, makes no bones of it. You fight a giant pile of shit. You bounce on this flower's boobs to get higher up to another platform, because it's a 3D platformer. You're moving around like that.
I've never. It looks cute, and it's kind of got that cute thing, but then that evil kind of cute vibe to it. Yeah,
like it's got that Happy Tree Friends esque kind of thing going for it. Of course, that was a little too gratuitous with pushing the envelope for mainly growing up. But going into Ratchet and Clank, I think it kind of scaled it back down, because you're still doing the 3D platforming thing, but now they're kind of pushing more action into the 3D platform, because now you're hitting. You could always hit Mario, but now you got guns. Like what I think the first Ratchet and Clank had 20 guns to it. 20 weapons, at least, somewhere around there. I could be off on that. I think it might only be 10.
It might be 10. I think they do normally about that number, and then they give all those guns like massive upgrades throughout the series. So that makes it easier to kind of navigate between the guns. If they have too many, it's too hard to navigate.
Did you ever play the Ratchet and Clank games?
I've played the last couple. They're the ones that I really got into. The first couple I never really played a whole heap.
Have you played Rift Apart yet? The one for PS5?
Yeah, it's so good. It's like
it is.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like literally the best Ratchet and Clank game. Okay.
My next poll on my channel, because right now the poll's closed and it looks like Pikmin 3's got to win, so expect to see me posting the playthrough of that. But I'll throw that, because I'm trying to go through my old game, like my new games. I just haven't gone through yet, and that's one of them. So I'll throw that on there. I liked Ratchet and Clank, like the original trilogy. I played some of the PS3 ones. They were all right, but they didn't hit the same mark.
No, that's what I mean. The series kind of fell away for a bit there, and then they got it back on track with the game before Rifts Apart, and then Rifts Apart just nailed every ounce of it.
They did kind of have a softish reboot that I did play, which was really good. I stopped at one area because it was ticking me off, and I haven't gone back. But that was really fun. So it's nice that is a 3D platformer that continues to this day. Jak and Daxter, though, honestly, I'll call Jak and Daxter the first one, 3D platformer game. It's a little harder to call 2 and 3 platformers.
I haven't played a whole. I think I only played the first one. I think.
And the first one does act like your traditional 3D platformer on PlayStation 2, and it's a good one. It's really good. I enjoy it. But then Part 2 became this Grand Theft Auto style dystopian city that you're driving around in a motorcycle in. And then the third one's you're in this wasteland. It's just total shift.
Can you have? Let's just put a pause on this for the moment. I've got a random question for you. Can you have a 3D platformer game that you can't jump in?
Yes. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
Which one?
Captain Toad.
Captain Toad. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is it? Oh, I guess. Yes.
I would consider that a 3D platformer because, like, you're still going from platform to platform. It's just that you can't jump to them. You know, it's either a little conveyor belt or a little platform thing that you walk on that brings you there.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Okay, back to Jack and Dexter. Sorry for
Sorry
interrupting.
to shut that down so quick. it just entered my brain. I don't know.
It was anything I had to do with gaming, and I thought I'd just throw it in there.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
No, it's okay.
No, but just to close up I think that's like the PS2 era. It's funny. Before we did this though, a little practice. Anytime when like I got a topic on what we're going to talk about tonight, I always look at my wall just so I have a couple examples in my head that I can talk about. So it at least sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I was looking at the Xbox and the Xbox 360 games. Not a whole lot of 3D platformers I at least own.
Banjo-Kazooie, Psychonauts?
Yeah, the only ones is Banjo-Kazooie and Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Psychonauts?
Psychonauts, yeah, that'd be a 3D platformer, right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while since that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one too. And there was a really new one that came out recently, and I couldn't just get into it, but it was some Fox thing,
the Super Lucky Tail.
Super Lucky Tail. Yeah, that one. I just couldn't get into it so much.
I think that's a good like entry level 3D platformer. Remember how you were saying like how some parts of Mario 64 are just a little like kind of get ya. I see that game as being the complete opposite. That's an easy 3D platformer. So if you ever want to like just like chill with a 3D platformer, that's probably where I go.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. But then if you want to chill with a 3D platformer, the easiest one to chill with is the new Ratchet and Clank. I'm sorry to sell this to you again, but they told
I own it. Don't worry.
But they said that they wanted this is the first game they made that you can get through without dying because they've made easy mode so people can go through the game without dying if you get stuck on a part. And they said like 10 years ago they would never have added that to a game. They always wanted to put a death in. But then they found that people just wanted to get through the game and enjoy the story, so they made the easy mode. And I played through it on the easy mode just because I'd played through it once and I really liked it, so I just wanted to have fun and get around. So yeah.
And that's great. I'm kind of glad that features in games now. Like a lot of games. You just want to go for the ride, enjoy the story.
That's good.
Here you go. And I support that. Now personally, I need something. I need that thrill of looking for a health pack. Or whatever that I got. But just knowing that people can enjoy like the overall experience without having to like really sweat that stuff is great. I didn't know that Ratchet and Clank do that, and you're right. You would never see that back in the day.
No, and they said that. They said it was just something that was never there ever, and then they just like, oh, we'll make it into that. 3D platformers, we'll come back to 3D platformers in a second, but 3D platformers that go between 2D and 3D, are you a big fan of that concept?
It's funny that you mention that because sometimes they do it for weird effects.
Like Mario what was the new Mario? The one they
Odyssey. Yeah, I love that. That was super cool. Yeah. I thought that was a very well implication of that.
Yeah, I loved that one too. That was one of my favorite ones.
It did do one thing I found that was kind of annoying though. I could be wrong, but I almost distinctly remember the D-pad not working when you would go in there. You still had to use the joystick. I might be messing this up. It's been a few years since I played Odyssey.
You might be right. You might be right. But they may have.
Now it didn't ruin it, but it would have been cool if you could go back to just the D-pad, just for old time's sake.
I think you're right about that though.
And you will occasionally get the game that is a 3D game itself, but usually like the hub world for some reason is on a 2D plane.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a game that does that right now, but I know it must exist somewhere.
There's a game called 2D 3D or it's 2D 3D something like that, but it's spelt like two like the word two with D E E 3D, and it's like a 2D platformer, but then you press a button and then all of a sudden it rotates the screen and then it's a 3D platformer. So you have to go between that world and that world. It's really cool. But it's only a little small indie game, but I'm just saying like some games really do implement that world.
Well, what you just said, that actually, I forgot about this one, Super Paper Mario. Although the 3D part of it isn't... The 3D part of it's more like Crash Bandicoot, really, how it's kind of like corridor-based. Like that, but then you do have the 2D shift there.
Yeah. I'm trying to find this game that I really liked. I don't know if you know... and now I'm just dragging you into another section of my brain. There was this 3D platformer, but you played as this really long dog that you could stretch, and you could actually play 2-player, and there was a dog's head on either end of the dog, and so you could play 2-player, and one dog would grab, like the one dog head you could grab onto something, and the other dog head could grab onto something, and you could use that to get across places and do things. And it was, I've got to find this game because you'll want to know about it now.
I know. Stretchy Dog. Is that the name of the game? Stretchy Dog?
It might be Stretchy Dog. Hang on, let me just have a look.
Well, I'm assuming you play as a dachshund, because you wouldn't play as any other dog.
Oh, no, it's called Phogs. So it's PHOGS.
All right.
Yeah. And you play, it's a really fun 2-player game, but it's like you're both controlling both. It's like, Cat Dog, the old cartoon. Where, yeah. So it's like that, but it's 2 dogs, and you grab onto different things to get through levels. And yeah, it's absolutely fun, especially if your other person is annoying, because they could just start walking the wrong way and ruin your game or whatever. But you can also play it 2-player, single player, where you just alternate ends that you're controlling. But yeah, anyway, back to wherever we were before I took us on this anything gaming adventure.
Dogs.
Yeah, sorry. I'm really excited about this week because I love 3D platformers, and I don't think there are enough of them. And
overall, what would you say is your definitive 3D platformer? Like, you were like, if you were to sell me 3D platforming, what would you want to sell to me? Would it be Rift Apart?
Rift Apart's there, highly up there. Sackboy's Adventure is so good. Have you played that one?
I've only played Little Big Planet. That's the only Sackboy.
No, go and play Sackboy's Adventure. It's so much better than Little Big Planet. Little Big Planet is dead to me. That's how bad it is compared to Sackboy. Like, Sackboy's Adventure is so much better. It's literally a 3D platformer. They've taken the whole 2D elements out of it, and it's like a Mario game or something like that. There's nothing to do with 2D anymore. And it's so fun. It's so, especially like multiplayers and that, like multiple people, just a really, really fun thing. It kind of reminds me of, let me think of the man one that jumps. He likes to run with the feet, and he's got his arms and feet aren't connected. What's that guy called?
Oh, Rayman.
Yeah. It's like that, but it's a 3D platformer, not a 2D.
Oh, Rayman.
Yeah.
Rayman's Rayman 1 is a 2D platformer, but 2 and 3 were
2.5
straight on 3D platformers. Good ones too.
Yeah, well, but if you go with like Rayman 1, where you've got like your multiplayer version, or Mario when you got your multiplayer version, that's how good Sackboy's Adventure is playing multiplayer. It is just a great game. You put that on your list. Have you got that one?
No, well, one thing that does make you go, ooh, is, and I do love 3D platformings, but I know you said multiplayer.
It's definitely, you don't need to play it multiplayer, but then they add these...
You said that the multiplayer was good, though.
the multiplayer is really good. So if like your niece is over or something like that, fantastic game. I played it through with my kid. There's you can play the whole game single player, but then there's like in every world there's a level that requires you to play multiplayer. So you can only do, if you don't play it multiplayer, you can only do about 90% of the game, if that makes sense.
All right, yeah. That's the way it is with like a lot of like Dead Space and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go for low hanging fruit on this one. It's kind of a duel, like it's a toss up between two games, obviously, but I'll give the edge to the first Super Mario Galaxy.
I knew you were going there. You're a massive fan of that.
Yeah,
I like the new Mario one too, the Odyssey.
Oh yeah, no, like seriously, and I'll even throw some love, not a lot of love. I'll throw recognition to Mario Sunshine. There are parts of Mario Sunshine that are good 3D platform action. There's other parts that are boring 3D platformer action, but there's good stuff in there too.
Yeah, I agree. But you have to. We're both on the same page that there is not enough of these because they're just. I don't know why people don't make these games more and more and more and more. You know what I mean?
They're fun. It's like, and you're right. You don't like. There's no big 3D platformer coming out right now. The only big 3D platformer that is the contenders: Mario, Crash Bandicoot, like Sonic, and honestly, we were talking about 3D event platformer games and Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 is good enough, but not nearly to the level that a lot of the games we've been talking about right now are. They're just not.
No, all the good 3D platformers are 90% of them are probably 10 years old now.
Right? Yeah, because they're really not pumping a whole lot of them out.
Actually, the best one to come out recently, besides that we've missed in the new recent ones, is Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Nintendo, you know, they know what they're doing when it comes to 3D platformer. Absolutely, yeah. And it's good. Definitely, if you're into 3D platformers, Switch, Nintendo seems to be like the safest place to be.
Yeah.
You'll get them if you go there. And it's kind of interesting that there's no real like clamoring for a new 3D platformer today. The last new, and by new I mean like new IP. Even though they take quite a bit from an original IP, was Ukulele when that came out.
Yeah.
And because that was made by ex-Rare developers that worked on Banjo-Kazooie. And if you play the game, it's a lot like Banjo-Kazooie. It plays a lot like Banjo-Kazooie. And it's a decent game, but even that game, it didn't seem like the hype for it wasn't really there as strong as you think. No. I was excited for it because I like 3D platformers, but it didn't seem like a whole lot of other people were.
Okay, do all 3D platformers have to be? I'm trying to think of the word for this, but the 99% of them are very child friendly, kind of got wholesome feels to them. No one does a dark, dingy, like gruesome 3D platformer. Is that
no?
Is that part of the MO for a 3D platformer? It has to be light and airy and appease the masses.
I think that just happens to be circumstance. We did talk about but even Conquer, and we talked about how Conquer, pee and poop and everything. It's still a cute squirrel doing it. It's there's still fluffy bunnies and whatnot in the game.
Yeah.
So and with 2D there are 2D platformers out there that they get dark, they get gritty. But as far as 3D, you do make up a good point. But I don't think it's not that I think that's the only thing that'll work. I just think no one's tried.
Well, maybe Psychonauts got a little. It was still cute, but it got a bit deep in parts.
Yeah, once again, kids, children. You play as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the darkest 3D platformer I could think of. That at the very least, the darkest 3D platformer that feels like a 3D platforming game. I'm not going to include the OG Tomb Raiders to that, even though there is platforming, being done. But you're also like, human female shooting at human people,
Yeah.
doing things like that, getting attacked by Tyrannosaurus Rex. But
Yeah.
even that isn't like grungy and filthy and blood and all that to it. Can you imagine? I would love to see that. A 3D platforming game where you have to jump on the enemy's head, but when you jump on their head, they,
Splat.
like they go splat. Yeah, like there's a sound.
This is my
It's
next.
red.
No one take this idea. I'm just doing it for my next game. Okay, so
We gotta do that. Like the first ultra violent 3D platformer.
I know it's just not a thing. It's just like let's add cuteness to every 3D
Instead of
platformer.
finding like 120 stars, you find 120 livers ripped out of your enemies.
Oh. 'Cause, I mean, there's a lot of 3D shooters that are like a top-down shooting kind of point of view, but they don't
Let's
really
go
add
wild
that
with that.
3D platforming. I suppose because a part of it is once you start jumping around, kind of make like who jumps around? Kids jump around. No one like guys running down the street jumping around like crazy people just doesn't look all that intimidating anymore. You
No,
can't.
that's a thing right there. There's a lot of jumping going on with 3D platformers, so and that hits at a visceral young level. So kind of got to keep it there, but it's still fine. I mean, I don't know anyone's ever been. If I don't care how cutesy cuddly a game is, if it's a decent game and it's fun, I will play it. Same as if I don't care how dark and grim and bloody and all that a game is. If it was a fun 3D platformer, I'd play it. But maybe as we said, that's just like how you teach them, the younger kids how to walk in a 3D world so they can do it with the bigger games that are more serious and grungy, but less focused on jumping and collecting 120 doodads.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take it to your favorite part of the gaming sphere: multiplayer 3D platformers.
All right.
I've added Fogs.
I will come up with one. Well,
It Takes
Okay.
Two.
I'm gonna say this, terms of like 3D, because with proper 3D platforming, there definitely has to be kind of like a you help each other out in a way. And It Takes Two is a good example of that. I'll say, so for very least modern 3D platformers,
Yeah.
I would say that's up there. But because, I would say definitely nowadays modern 3D platformers usually try to include some type of multiplayer aspect to it.
Oh, I'm talking about the ones that are predominantly multiplayer.
That just don't have it tacked on, that like you need the second play.
I think It Takes Two is probably the best one that I can think of. Unless you want to include the Fall Guys. I don't know if you...
Oh, the Fall Guys? Well, actually, if we're talking about that, and I'm gonna give this a shout out, and I know, like both of us had said, we really don't like this game, Roblox.
Yes.
There's some games on Roblox. One of them's like, it's seriously, you just climb up this tube that has like different not ladders, but platforms that you have to jump up and all that.
Yeah.
That was really fun, and you're playing with a whole bunch of people that can, if you're not careful, can knock you off and stuff.
Roblox is probably a good example of where 3D platforms is actually going to. Even that, and some of the Fortnite modes. Like, my kids will sit there for hours trying to jump up to this stupid thing for no reason. They're not even collecting stuff no more. Like, we used to collect stuff in 3D platformers. They're just jumping on. Let's see if we can get all the way up to the top because that's where we got to get to. And I'm like, but there's nothing to collect up there. Why are we doing this? Like, so that is probably why we're not seeing as many 3D platformers and good ones, because the kids are invested in that kind of stuff.
No, that's true. But speaking of multiplayer, like as far as multiplayer 3D platformers go, yeah, Roblox. I forget and then there's a couple of them. You know, my niece and me and her would play them. Those are actually really fun. That's what got me to tell her, like, hey, if you like this, play Mario 64, play Mario Odyssey, play Mario anything, because you know, like it's this, but you know, better.
Yeah. Well, like I said, do Sackboy's Adventure. I highly recommend. That is such a high recommendation. If you don't play that game, I'll don't know. I'll come over there and smack you across the face. It's a fine.
And is it for PS4 or PS5?
Sackboy, it's for both.
Well, yeah, but so it came out for PS4 first, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you can get it on PS4, PS5.
Yeah, I got the 5.
Yeah.
See, the thing is now, yeah, like I ended up moving some of my systems around. My 5 is actually in my living room now. In PS5.
Hey, did you end up getting one of those PlayStation portable things?
I did not, but my brother did. So I've had some time with it. It's cool. I don't know if I'd get it right away, but he was in the living room watching whatever on TV, but on his portal he was playing San Andreas.
Okay.
It looked cool. I was impressed. It's actually funny. His daughter, my niece, 12 years old, she loves playing Grand Theft Auto 5 for the dog. She does the dog stuff.
Okay.
With Chop. So she's doing that while he's playing San Andreas, which I just thought was a funny little generational observation.
Because I've seen them, and they're like these big screen, and then it looks like they've cut a controller in half and glued it onto the sides.
Yep.
Does it feel flimsy at all? Like it's going to break or anything? No.
Okay. No, it's sturdy. It is sturdy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like those controllers, they're on there. Yeah. No, I was surprised, but it's not heavy. I mean, it's heavy. Like, it's about as heavy as a Switch, like with the Joy-Cons in. You know, maybe a little heavier, but not by much. Nothing that, like, anyone of decent strength would notice. So, no, it feels good. It feels really good.
And what about the latency from the PlayStation going across? Do you notice it at all?
Okay, so remember what I said he was playing in the living room?
Yeah.
So the living room is actually where I am right now, down there in the first floor.
Okay.
His room is right across the hallway. If you go this way, right there. So he's like, it was seriously that. And he would tell me it was really good, but you would occasionally get that little hiccup.
Okay.
Once in a while. It wouldn't mess up the game completely. Some days are worse. He doesn't know why. Maybe it was the Wi-Fi was just working too hard or whatever. But it wasn't too bad from there. Like with a good couple rooms, like interrupting it. And he told me if he was like right in the same room with it, no latency problems at all.
Well, it probably goes onto Bluetooth when it gets into that part.
Yeah. So if he's like in the same room as his PlayStation 5, yeah, there's no problems with it at all.
So soon you're saying I'm going to see kids going around with a backpack on with a PlayStation 5 on their back with a generator strapped to their ass playing.
Okay, yeah, you could do that, I guess, yeah. That would work, right? Yeah, so, all right. Yes, you will.
Let's get PlayStation Portable, boys.
But I don't know, man. That PlayStation 5, I got to say this. I enjoy my PlayStation 5. I love it, but it is the worst physical console I've ever owned. And I own consoles that have the controller, like the shape, the weight, where the buttons are, where the disc is.
Oh, I don't like any of it. I hate all of those things. However, I will say that the PlayStation 5 controller is far and away the greatest controller I've ever owned in my life. Yeah, you know what I mean? And
Xbox has the complete different, like their control. Xbox control is fine. It's just a basic controller. It really doesn't add to anything to it. But you know what the Xbox is? It's a box.
Yeah.
That's all it is. No weird shapes, curvatures, or anything. The buttons are right there. It's easy to use. That's where the HDMI cable goes. There's some USB cables. Yeah. There it is.
Okay, so, hang on. Just to wrap all this up before I get off track too much, like we always do. Is there any more platform and stuff? Because I feel like you had some news of the week that we were going to go to, but we should have done at the start and we'll do it at the end.
What, a new platformer game?
No, is there any more platformer stuff? Because you had some interesting
Well,
stories
no,
about news.
I will kind of. I think we covered a lot of it because you did more than I thought. Even you mentioned it. There's no real good focus on platformers anymore,
No.
which is a damn shame. Because I mean, we could go on about Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, the Ratchet and Clank series, maybe even some mediocre ones, and I'll even throw Donkey Kong 64 in the mediocre one. Not that it's a bad game, but it's maybe the most by the numbers awesome 3D platformer you ever play. I don't know.
I feel like is the Simpsons game a platformer, or is that more of a open world adventure?
Open world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's next
We
week.
talked, like, I mean, because there are parts of Grand Theft Auto 5, when you do have to jump over stuff, even though there's no real jump button, you're still going over things, or you might need to be led somewhere, things like that. So, but yeah, hit and run, no. Even the Simpsons game, like the game called Simpsons game, I don't know if I would call that a 3D platformer.
Or hit and run.
In a sense, because I don't remember doing a lot of jumping. That was more like a 3D adventure game, really, at that point, not a platformer.
Yeah. No, I think we got them all. But yeah, so let's move on to your stories about news, about interesting things that have happened in the gaming world.
Okay, here's one. In fact, maybe if some of the... I'm going to look this up, actually, because I don't want to butcher this completely. It's this game called Escape from Tarnov, or Tarkov.
Yeah.
And
that's
essentially, it's early access.
It's a shooter game. I remember it now.
It's a shooting game, and it's a very Escape from Tarkov. It's a very ultra realistic shooter. You know what I mean? Like it's one shot, one kill. Just I don't like ultra realistic shooters. I like my stuff goofy as hell because that's just how I like. That's just how I like to do it. But anyway, what happened was this. So it's early access, but you still can buy the game. Now, if you had gotten the Edge of Darkness version, which was $150 for this,
so $100
you got
more.
all the goodies that were available, and it tells you straight out you get all current and future DLC.
Right.
And sounds like a good thing. Well, after a while, they ended up coming out with a new mode. I think it's just called the Ultimate Edition. I think that's just what it's called. It's called something very generic. It's $250, and we could even just talk about how these prices for an unreleased, unfinished game is insane. But they came out with a PvE mode.
Yeah.
And you have to buy that version to get it. So if you got the Edge of Darkness version, that was supposed to have, that told you you'd get everything, here's something you're not getting. Naturally, there was a bit of a backlash to it.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, flooded, all the social media accounts, like, what the shit. Some were threatening legal action, because, it did say, you will get this, and now you're not. So there were plenty of people just pissed off, refunds, all this. So finally, the developers came out and said, all right, we will give everyone the PvE version once we get enough servers going. I guess they didn't think it through, because now they have to give them this version. You know what I mean? They have to do it. They bought the version that actually that said all DLC included.
Why wouldn't you just do that?
Yeah, that's basic knowledge. If you tell someone, if you buy this, you're buying the complete game, you have to give them the complete game. Not the complete game at that moment. It doesn't matter. Obviously games that have regular seasons, like Fortnite and all that shit. But even then, you don't really buy that stuff. You just buy the currency to get all that shit, So that's completely different. This was something that actually told you were going to get everything. And PvE mode's pretty big. That's a whole new mode. And they're telling you you're not getting it. Plus, there's also some, it's an early access game, so I'm not going to knock them on this that much. But I guess the game isn't, you can tell it's not finished. You'll shoot people in the head and they'll still be alive. And it's supposed to be an ultra-realistic, if you get shot in the arm, you're in trouble kind of game.
It is quite a popular game, though. Like, I was surprised.
Oh,
with the
it's
game.
got a dedicated fan base,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm not into that kind of shooter, but it sounds competently run. People sound like they're having fun with it, with the customization and all that stuff, which is great. But in the words of Max Payne and Max Payne 3, you got to understand capitalism. You buy a product and you get what you paid for it. If you paid for a promise to get everything, and don't get me wrong, people break promises all the time.
I feel like they mucked up. I feel like the developer has mucked up royally. Not because they should have. They probably didn't. They underestimated their popularity and what they could sell, and they probably thought that that first version they weren't going to sell many for $150. Like if I was developing that game, I would be thinking, there's no way we're probably going to sell like a couple at that price. And because of the game's popularity, they probably got people going, oh, that's good value. Let's get on that. And then they're like, oh, now we want to do something bigger like this. They should have charged $200 for that to start with, because to build the servers and to do all that stuff is going to cost them a lot of cash. And so now they're kind of caught in a bit of a bind, I would say. So
well, there's also a trust issue. Okay, you do this time. What's going to stop you from doing it again? When's the $300 version coming out that has this mode that, we're not going to be able to play, even though you said we could?
They should have they should have cut that thing. They should have cut that deal and then released a new deal that was the same as that deal, but honored anyone that had got the previous deal. If you know what I mean? Like, so you should have gone, okay, the black version, whatever it is, that ends on this date. Anyone that's got that gets that, but the new deal is the gold version, and that starts from today, and you're paying $250. But the people with the black version, you're still getting all your stuff, but the people with this version, that's what they should have done. And yeah, they've made a real mess of it.
Yeah, I mean, fuck around, find out, right?
Yeah.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Although, it's got to be said, I've played some phenomenal games in my life. $150. That was the cheap one. That was not the $200 whatever one. But that game better be awesome.
Well, okay, let me just say, if you've got Call of Duty, for example, you're paying what is it for the price of the game, and then if you get all the, back in the day it was the map packs, if you got all of them, then you're paying $150 for the season. So if this is going to be $150 for everything going forward, that's really a steal. That's like a golden ticket. Imagine if Call of Duty came out and said every DLC we're going to put out from now on, how many would they sell for? Like, if it was $500, I'd probably buy it. It's a deal. For
what they put out in their lifespan, you're right. You're absolutely right. That would be a steal.
Yeah.
But they don't do that because they're not going to give everything away they're not going to say that.
When you think about it, the developer mucked up. They mucked it up royally. So my news of the week was that Batman, I saw the amazing trailer of new Arkham Batman game coming out. I was so excited. I was such a fan of the old Batman games, but now I need to buy an Oculus Rift 3, so I guess I won't be playing that game. It's exclusive. I've never seen a game exclusive to Oculus Rift. Like, is this the start of it? Is it the start of a revolution, or?
I think it's a stupid move. Like, this ain't the first Batman game to be VR, and honestly, the first one really didn't set the world on fire. It was cool, detective work. It's pretty much that.
That was on PlayStation, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. PSVR exclusive, I believe too.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, this is just. I think this game was in development before like Suicide Squad really Suicide Squad was in development, but I think this was one of those things that they thought, okay, so Suicide Squad's gonna come out, people are gonna be interested in the Arkhamverse again, let's release this kind of thing, you know what I mean? Which is cool, makes sense. It's happened before.
What happened to Suicide Squad?
Well, see, that's the thing. They made the gamble. It did not pay off, but they made this game, so now they got to make chicken salad out of this chicken shit that they kind of got their hands covered with.
Well,
and here we go. Hope you guys have a MetaQuest 3.
I'm looking at it from a different point of view. I think it's Meta being shit scared of Apple Vision Pro. And they're doing their best to own the VR space. I wouldn't be surprised if Meta has just paid them $1 trillion. They're probably paying big money for developers to develop things specifically for like locked in contracts for the MetaQuest 3.
I agree with you, but the Apple the Pro, that's the $150. That's the $1,500. That's like the super expensive one, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So, and that's like when I bought my MetaQuest 2, it was reasonably new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like it wasn't old yet, and I want to say it was around like $350, $400. It came with Resident Evil 4, the VR Resident Evil 4. So, and that's about the price of a console. You know what I mean? A little cheaper now, but that's an entry level price for a new gaming platform.
Yeah,
but $1,500 is a lot.
If you've seen the technology in the Apple Pro thing, it's insane, like absolutely insane technology. So and that will come down to a better price as they kind of iron out their bugs and they release their next version. They've got to try and find their market with that, but ever since that was announced, kind of a
problem, though.
Yeah, but ever since that was announced, then Meta has been doing anything they can to go and win back the market. Well, make sure the market knows that Meta's about. Make sure the MetaQuest is really prominent in the market. So they're doing things like this to make sure that people go, hey, let's just buy that one. It's cheaper and it's got these cool games on it. Let's go and get that one. And not even think about it.
But even then, I don't think they need the cool games. Just the fact that it's cheaper. You know, that's enough of a sell. Like, seriously, if I had a choice between a MetaQuest 3, if I was super rich, I'd buy the Apple, but I'm not. So I'd probably go for the MetaQuest 3.
Oh, I understand that, but Apple is also really not very well known for putting games onto their iPads. I mean, everyone goes, hey, I've got an iPad, I'm going to go and play some shitty game. But Apple's not really, that's not where their strong point is pushing games on their computers. And I think even so back in the 80s that Steve Jobs went there and decided to ban games or tried to stop games coming onto the Apple Mac at the time. So Apple's not like synonymous with games, even though they make really good products that can run games really well. Yeah, and get what I'm kind of trying to get at is that something like Meta with their actual, if they could become the VR gaming choice, the one that everyone chooses, then they've got like they'll just take over the market. I'm not saying they haven't, but I'm saying they want to make sure that they're beating, what's the other one, Vine or something like that. I think they're trying to make a move just to really push into the market now because let's face it, like a VR and all that stuff hasn't really set, like no one's rushed. Like the people who were interested in it went out and got it, but no one else has really jumped out there and like the normal mums and dads aren't going to buy it yet. It's just the super enthusiastic people. Now it's coming to the masses now.
I'm not gonna lie, like I got MetaQuest and I got the PSVR 2, and every time I have people over and I'm like, hey, you want to try this? Nah. You know, like if you're interested in it, yeah, like it's your thing, but the casual interest isn't there, or at least I haven't seen the casual interest, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that is one thing I think the Apple, actually, I've heard that the Apple, like as far as like the set itself, the most comfortable like headset there has been so far.
And because you can see through it, and I think with the MetaQuest 3, you can see through it also. Having that spatial awareness doesn't make it feel like you're stuck in a thing. Where I think the MetaQuest 2, you're basically stuck in this area. So that's what you bought it for, to be stuck in that area. But some people don't like things over their eyes, and not being able to see what's outside of that vision space. So the more that they can do to kind of bring this reality into the MetaQuest, I think the more popular it'll become.
I got an idea. I know what Apple needs to do to insert their dominance.
Oh.
Make the first really good virtual reality 3D platformer.
With killing. You want to be jumping from... Oh, actually, now I just did think of one. Whoa, we can finish this. I've got to try and think about this.
It's a 3D platformer VR game?
No. Killing platformer. Which is like like you jump around and kill people. It's more of a killing platforming thing. Is it Ghost Runner or something like that? There's Ghost 1 and 2. Now you've got me buggered. I'm going to have to Google search this before I can leave you.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm thinking of Katana Zero. Not Katana Zero, but another game that sounds like that.
It's always on sale, this game. I'm pretty sure it's like a Ghost Runner or yeah. I didn't like it at all, but it was a platform. It was basically a parkour platformer. You would run through it and kill people.
Like Neon White?
No, it was Ghost Runner or Runner of the... I can't find it, so we're going to never know. We will never know.
Well, look up that, because I'm trying to think of like parkour style games where like the most recent one I could think of was Neon White.
It's called Ghost Runner. Ghost Runner 1 and Ghost Runner 2.
Oh.
Google it and you'll see what I'm on about. It's a platformer.
We do that right now.
It's a parkour platformer, and it's quite violent and whatever. So there is one. We did find one before.
One word or two? I'll do one.
It's one word. Yeah, one word.
Oh, it's on. Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing the logo for this. That's where I
yeah, I thought it was Ghost Runner, right? And then I second guessed myself.
And that's part 2?
Yeah, there's a part 2 as well. They've done 2 versions. I think part 2 only came out not long back.
Oh yeah, Ghost Runner 2 just came out.
Yeah.
And it's reasonably priced too.
Yeah. Okay, so now I've got your next 3 games: Ghost Runner,
it's going right on the wish list.
Sackboy's Adventure, or Ratchet and Clank Rifts Apart. They're your 3 games to choose from, people.
Yeah. See, I don't have any newer 3D platformers to throw at you to be like, here, who won this?
No, but yeah. So they're the ones you will be playing through. Would you be playing?
Actually, hey, I got one. Roblox. Try those fun 3D platform in Roblox.
No, my kids try that all the time on me.
You're like, nah, not happening.
And to be honest with you, the collisions, like all the frameworks are terrible. Like you're jumping on boxes that don't exist, and the kids are there going, "Oh, this is great! How much fun is this?" I'm like, how did you get over there? I cannot make it over there. Well.
No, they don't tell you.
I just throw the controller at my child and he does it for me. Well, on that crazy bombshell, let's get out of here for another time. And we'll see you guys next time.